Well, I'm joined by Jane and Ray here in the studio ahead of the PAG meeting on Monday night. Certainly one that's going to be quite controversial, to say the least. The overview is drugs legalising, and obviously everyone knows your story, and we'll come to that in a second anyway. But you've come over to talk about this. I mean, the other man, do you think we're the testbed for legalising drugs?
So tonight I think it's really about starting a discussion on drugs, about having a pragmatic approach where we start to look at treating drugs issues as a health problem rather than a criminal justice problem. When we say legalisation, we're not calling for a free-for-all. This is not about putting drugs in shops and making them readily available. What we're talking about is strict regulations and controls of the drug trade.
Just like cigarettes then?
Well, we can learn many lessons from cigarettes and tobacco over the last few years, and we've managed to show how through regulation we've managed to reduce use, make stricter age controls on tobacco and make positive progressions with regards to tobacco use through regulation rather than through making tobacco illegal.
And you concur with this, do you? I mean,
Totally, yes.
I mean, for people who don't know the story, you lost your children to drugs, which unregulated is what you're going to say here, I suppose. That if that had been a different scenario, things could be different?
Yes, my sons, one was age 20, the other was age 19. They went to a football match and one of them had bought some powdered ecstasy. We don't know exactly the situation, the circumstances in which they took it all, but they were found dead on the following Monday, together in a room in Bolton. They'd taken by the toxicology tests all of this powdered drug, which one of them had bought on the darknet on the internet. One of them had over six times a lethal dose. The other had just under 6, so it was enough to kill, a dozen people, maybe more.
I mean, that's an unusual batch, obviously, because mostly it's cut down, isn't it? I mean, but
it is,
at the end of the day, no one knows what you're getting. No. This is the point.
No. I was introduced to anyone's child by a friend of Torin's who went to a meeting, and it immediately resonated with me what they were doing. And I thought that this has got to be the way forward, because what is happening at the moment just is not working.
People like things that are illegal. That's just a fact of life. Don't you agree that it's like going to a pub before you're 18? It's just something that is in everyone's way of seeing things. If it's illegal, people want to try it.
Yeah, and one thing we're doing is trying to make drugs really boring. So rather than there's certainly a glamorous nature to the illicit market, but fundamentally. This is about pragmatism. This is about recognising that drug use does exist in our society, and how can we make it safer?
Of course, the Isle of Man's got one of the harder regimes for dealing with drugs, in the sense if you get caught, the tariffs here are pretty much double the UK. Your comments on that? I mean, it hasn't particularly put people off, I suppose, but
Well, drug use still very much exists. I believe a couple of weeks ago there was a case with a couple of underage children who were hospitalised as a result of drugs. Again, it's just about accepting this as a reality and thinking, right, how can we make it as safe as possible?
So, and that's your case basically tonight. And the thrust is just to see the Isle of Man doing, or obviously trying for the UK, but do you see the Isle of Man being a test bed?
Well, I think the Isle of Man is a very interesting case, and a place where we could certainly start to innovate in some interesting ways. Actually, there are lots of places around the world that are already pursuing more interesting drug policies. Take Canada, which is about to legally regulate cannabis.
And a lot of states in the United States.
A number of states in the US. And so really this isn't about using the Isle of Man as a guinea pig. Really it's saying that these are measures that are being trialled in a number of countries, and why doesn't the Isle of Man follow suit?
And do you have a view on this before, obviously, the tragic death of your children? I mean, is this something that you've realised there's a problem out there that needs to be solved since?
We were aware, for instance, that one of my sons was dabbling in drugs. He got involved in his early teens. So we did speak to him. We had conversations with him. He got involved with the drugs and alcohol people. We thought that it was something that he would come out of. As we were saying earlier, there's a kind of pleasure to be rebellious, go against, try things out. We're never going to get rid of that. In lots of ways, we try to encourage, you know, our children and ourselves to do different things, to try different experiences and things like that. I don't think that the majority of people actually realise, for instance, when their daughters go away to university, go across to work, exactly what is going on when they're there. That was a bit of an eye-opener to me. Certainly talking to some of my parents since my boys' deaths, there are some of them who recognised quite, you know, maybe how lucky they've been in what has happened to their children. You know, I think there is a failure to actually come to terms with the drug scene and the drugs culture that does exist. Generally.
I mean, you could say the opposite is that, you know, there should be no drinking, there should be no smoking. I mean, you know, everything should be totally got rid of because it's a health implication at the end of the day, isn't it? If you legalise these things, there's going to be people who will abuse it. If you've been to Amsterdam, I'm sure you can see the same sort of stag weekends going crazy and out of control. Sort of.
Perhaps we could look at the example of the 1920s alcohol prohibition there, where, again, what we saw was ruthless criminals taking over the market. You saw all sorts of drug deaths from people drinking high quantity spirits. We've done very much the same with drugs. By making it illegal, the market is 100% controlled by criminals. Really, we're making these drugs far more dangerous, and the policies around it are causing massive destruction across the world. That's the issue that we think we need to look at.
And we've also got this crazy thing that at the end of the day, the government makes money out of alcohol, and I'm sure in the sense that, you know, to have it controlled, they would tax it, and it would therefore be an income stream for the government at the same time. But I mean, that's a long way down the road to take, isn't it, to actually legalise it? But you got hope in this? Do you think it's doable?
Absolutely.
It's happening in other places.
But here, I know. But here, do you think the politicians have got that thing to be forward think, or do you think if the UK changed their rules, the Isle of Man would probably follow?
I suspect that would be the case, but it's a very good opportunity to show that they've got different views and are more forward thinking than the British government is doing at the moment.